It is not your great father who does this, but the laws of the country, which he and every one of his people is bound to regard. John Eaton, Secretary of War, to the Alabama Creeks during Jackson's Indian removal policies. Good morning, everybody. It is your favorite aspiring revolutionary here, Wandering Author, reminding you that we are all the authors of our own lives. As always, my message remains the same. Spend less, live more, earn your freedom with frugality. What are you guys, that's supposed to go, that part goes at the end of the video. Today, we are finishing up discussing the tragic tale of Andrew Jackson, just to clarify, Indian removal policies, and the effect that they had on the Native American people who lived here. I'm on on a section of the Appalachian Trail in Georgia, I think. Almost done with my summer trips for this year. I kind of like this hat. I feel like it looks a little weird too. Anyways, so Jackson had taken to calling the Indian his children, and he insisted they referred to him, the president, as father. He sent a letter to an army major explaining the situation thusly. Say to my red Choctaw children and my Chickasaw children to listen. My white children of Mississippi have extended their law over the country. Say to the chiefs and warriors that I am their friend, that I wish to act as their friend. I am and will protect them and be their friend and father. Andrew Jackson. He's going to be their friend. Tell him that he's going to. So then the treaties that Jackson authors, remember, he's the treaty commissioner, breaks up the ancestral Creek, Choctaw, and Chickasaw lands. This right here is like in the southeast, basically kind of like the areas that I'm in right now. It was not only the president who preyed on the natives' hapless situation, but soon many of the new colonial U.S. residents were buying land from the Chickasaw individuals at a steep discount. Hashtag market economy. When Indians complained about their dispossession of the land to the federal government in Washington, our good friend and governor of Michigan, Lewis Cass, had the following to say. Our citizens were disposed to buy and Indians to sell. The improvident habits of the Indians cannot be controlled by regulations. If they waste it, as wasted they too often will, it is to be regretted. Again, the tone. I tried to add that accent in there to embellish it with a little bit of humor. But, so let's not all be darkness and malevolence. There were a few senators like Theodore Frelinghuysen of New Jersey who opposed it, but Jackson's removal bill quickly passed once it hit Congress's desk in 1829. And within 10 years, we're going to be a full-blown steam trail of tears. And if you remember anything from high school, it's a lot of death on the Trail of Tears. They don't call it that for no reason. In 1831, 13,000 Choctaw began journeying westward to an altogether new climate several states away. The army was supposed to organize it as far as like them moving to the new place, but instead the jobs were handed out to private contractors. Hashtag efficiency. The Cherokee delegation wrote an impassioned appeal to Congress, and this is from the Cherokee's perspective. We wish to remain on the land of our fathers. We entreat those to whom the foregoing paragraph are addressed to remember the great law of love. Do to others as ye would that others should do to you. So, Andrew Jackson responded quite eloquently at the second annual message to Congress in 1830, December. So, his response to the Aborigines' plight toward the Aborigines of the country, no one can indulge a more friendly feeling than myself. The wave of population and civilization are rolling to the west, and we now propose to acquire the countries occupied by the red men of the south and west by a fair exchange. Sympathizers were treated with just as harsh of a hand like Samuel Worcester. So there were some good Americans who kind of, at least, I'm not saying that the United States doesn't again, I am a proud American, actually. I'm proud to be from where I am. The country's done stuff that I am not proud of. Proud American still. But there were people who, I'm not saying that the country should not have gotten the lands, but the way that we got it, it's clearly wrong. And there were people who recognized it at the time. Christian missionary groups that were living amongst the Cherokee, including famously Samuel Worcester, who got a case brought to the Supreme Court, Worcester versus Georgia, where Georgia state militia arrested his missionary group that was working in the Cherokee land. Jackson orders them to get all beaten up, chained, and forced march 35 miles a day. Samuel Worcester was sentenced to 4 years of hard labor for supporting the Cherokees and vocally saying that they deserved to stay on the land. But the jury's decision was appealed to the Supreme Court, so that decision was handed down to him by a jury. It's not like a presidential decree. So, hashtag this divisive. Justice John Marshall declared the law being protested violated Cherokee treaties, thus making them unconstitutional, and he ordered Worcester be set free. Georgia ignored the verdict, and so did President Jackson. Hashtag to the victor belongs the spoils, which is a famous quote from Jackson. If there's anything that he shows us about history, that's the truth. It's if you've ever heard the famous quote, another one that's in the same line of thought, history is written by the victors. To the victors belong the spoils. Yeah, so Jackson's 1832 Treaty of Washington took a further 5 million acres from Creek Indians that lived in Alabama, which is where I was born. When colonial settlers took land promised to the Cherokee, the federal government did not intervene and instead rewrote a treaty and sent the Cherokee westward. Nice. By 1836, Congress declared war on the remaining holdouts, who provided no resistance, and private contractors were again made to arrange their voyage to the west, the same ones that failed the Choctaws just a couple years earlier. There were 800 Creek men who had volunteered to fight for the United States during the Seminole War in the newly acquired Florida territories. And in this exchange, they promised, the federal government promised them their families could remain in Alabama. Those promises were not kept. Hashtag brutal. 311 Indians drowned just on one boat in the Mississippi after private contractors overloaded an old steamship called Monmouth. The New Orleans newspaper reported, "The fearful responsibility for this vast sacrifice of human life rests on the contractors." President Van Buren, who's the guy who comes after Jackson, told Congress in 1839, "It affords sincere pleasure to apprise the Congress of the entire removal of the Cherokee Nation of Indians to their new homes west of the Mississippi. The measures authorized by Congress at its last session have had the happiest effects." And, so there we go. Have had the happiest effects. Yeah, so tomorrow we're definitely going to be talking about like virtue ethics, or maybe we'll be looking at some Zen philosophy, something that is lighter in tone. But again, like I said yesterday, as dark as the Native American story can be, whenever you really look at it, especially from their perspective, there's something heroic about the struggle, because they did continue to stand up with the leaders like Tecumseh and Black Hawk. There's also things to be said about the spread of civilization. I, for one, think that Jackson was wrong. No other way to put it. And that's really the nicest way that you can put it. But, again, it's important for those stories to be heard, even though they can be quite dark, because we need to recognize all of our ancestry, heritage, culture, descent. But we don't have to let that tarnish tomorrow, right? So we will be returning to maybe some Greek mythology even. I was gonna say Tartarus, but again, that's like their infernal torture place. So probably switch to something else. Not that. I'll come up with something for you guys. We'll probably the Nicomachean Ethics. I got some cheese peanut butter crackers on my face. Anyways, this is a wandering author for you guys. It's probably my last time in Appalachia for a minute at least. Anyways, you guys have a good rest of your day. What are y'all doing in order to inspire, uplift, and empower your local communities? Because this world isn't going to change unless we all do our part. You can count on me to do mine daily. Till next time, I love y'all.